Hey guys, welcome to my review of these, the JBL Live Pro 2 TWS headphones. Today we're going to check them out and we're going to see how they sound, how they are to use, and if I think you should get them. All of that's soon to come, but first I do need to point out that they were sent to me free of charge for review by JBL, so I just want to put that out there. It's not going to impact my review in any way, but I just feel like I gotta say that. And then also, if you guys could please like and subscribe, that would really help me out as a small channel. I'm trying to get to 750 subscribers, so everyone helps. And with that, let's get into it. Okay, so let's get into some basic stats of how these things are to use. Basically, they get about 10 hours of battery life and you can top them up to about 4 hours in about 5 minutes of charging. And then the battery case itself has about 3 full charges in it. As for how they sound pretty great. Every instrument sounds very independent from each other and they've got really clear highs and mids, and they do have a lot of bass. And you can actually tune it in the app that I'll get into a little bit later. Out of the box though, they have pretty solid bass, and they definitely just sound a lot better than most other things you hear. Especially compared to some of JBL's other headphones in their lineup, they sound a lot better, and they're much closer to my AirPod Pros than anything else, and those are like $100 extra. As for the internal mics, I'm gonna run a test right here so you guys can get a more thorough understanding of how those sound.
Testing. This is a test of the JBL Live Pro 2 headphones.
Okay, so overall, I think they actually sound pretty good. Apparently they have 6 internal microphones, like on, well, through each one. And I think that they do sound really well, especially when comparing them to like other in-ear headphones. I know AirPods especially can get really bad if you're trying to like do literally anything but phone call, because Apple has some proprietary thing that makes it sound weird. But overall, I think they sound pretty good. And if you're looking to use them as a headset, I think that they're perfectly fine. Okay, so now let's get into how they are to use day to day. I think overall, they are incredible to use day to day. They're easily as convenient as AirPods. They aren't nearly as integrated, especially with iOS devices, but basically anything you'd want to do, if you like pull them out of there, if you pull them out, you just pop it in, it automatically syncs with your phone and connects. They also have the same abilities like AirPods do to like pull out, and like when you pull out, it will like pause the music automatically for you. So like if someone comes up to you, like talks to you, you can pull it out. They do have talk through, which is their version of transparency, but unfortunately it is pretty good, but it limits your volume to only one volume level and you can't pick that volume level. So it's really unfortunate because if you're in like a loud area, you basically can't use it. It does have something called ambient aware, which will allow louder noises to kind of pass through into your headphones. And that works fairly well, and you can actually adjust the volume, and you can also adjust the threshold. So if you want really loud sounds to come in, but like quieter sounds get muffled, then you can do that, and you can actually adjust the threshold. I haven't noticed it make a ton of difference, like what the threshold is set at, but it is there and it is adjustable. That is one cool thing about these. They are very adjustable, and there is a ton of settings, which I'll get into later in the app part of this. As for the fit itself, they fit in your ear really, really well. They actually have multiple ear tips they come with so that you can fit it better to your ear. But I found that the default ones actually worked really well, and there's like smaller and larger sizes. So no matter what you're trying to do, you should be able to fit them in your ear really well. No matter how they fit in your ear, they theoretically should be able to adjust the automatic noise cancellation to adjust to your ear. It's got a built-in function where it will like play music and then see how it sounds in your ear and then adjust to your ear, which I think is really, really cool. I didn't notice it make a huge difference, but I bet that for some people, it will actually make it a lot better. One thing I do want to point out though, is that when you do have such a good seal, it doesn't have any sort of feedback. So if you're one of the people who really likes feedback, or like just has like more open headphones so that you can hear yourself talk, it does sound kind of muffled to yourself when you're on a call, but that's just to be expected with the form factor of these headphones. As for the actual quality of the noise cancellation, I'd say it's really, really good. I think it's probably as good as Apple's, if I had to be honest. I haven't used it as nearly as much as I have theirs, but for most situations, it works perfectly. And there is a little bit of a hiss when you're not listening to any music, but the second you play music or video or anything like that, it goes away entirely and you should be good to go with it. I also want to point out there isn't really any latency when you play music or anything like that. When you like pause play, there's no like massive lag. It's pretty fast, and even when you pause on the actual headphone, it basically just instantly pauses and plays. And there's also feedback sounds. As for the build quality of these headphones, they're actually IPX5 rated, so they're not fully waterproof, but they should be able to handle like sweat and maybe like if you like drop in the water for a second, something like that. I will say that the case itself feels pretty solid, and like it definitely feels like a premium product. It does have like, I think it's a magnetic lid. I can't really tell. I think it's also spring loaded in the base of it. But the case itself is actually pretty small and convenient. And the headphones themselves just snap in and out of place really conveniently with magnets. So it's very, very convenient to use, I will say. Now let's get into the app itself. So this app has a lot of features. It is a full setup feature, which I'm gonna actually play some video of now. But it basically helps you set up your headphones and get them all set up the exact way you want them when you start, which is really convenient, especially for people who didn't like take the time to look through all the features. It's like a really easy startup wizard, which is really cool. But that's where you can like set up the automatic noise cancellation, and there's a bunch of settings you can tweak in there to make it sound differently depending on what you want. And this is also where you can adjust a lot of things basically. So for instance, when you tap on the headphone, you can adjust what that tap does, and you can do it like side specific. So if you want your left one to pause and play and the right one to adjust volume, you can do that. There's like a ton of options. You can also adjust how the sound actually sounds. So if you're someone who wants a lot of bass, you can boost the bass levels on the frequency graph and then kind of like keep their mids and highs relatively flat. Or you can do something, you can basically do whatever you want. And there's also a bunch of presets that are really helpful to start out with. I like the club one. That's the one I use for most of my music and listening, but you can definitely adjust it to whatever you want. There's also a lot of other stuff in here about the ambient aware and like all these settings for that. And I will say that it's relatively easy to use and convenient to use. You can also adjust which voice assistant you'd rather use. So like Amazon Alexa, or I think Siri is the main one I use. I will say in general, these are just very elegant to use, and the optimization, they've actually thought through, and people have tested this thoroughly. Some of JBL's other headphones, it felt like they hadn't really tested them all the way, and it seems like they kind of got released into the wild without maybe as much testing as they could have been, or maybe they were just like, this is a lower tier product, so we don't want it to, they're trying to differentiate the products, I guess. I don't really know what their plan was, but these feel thoroughly tested, and they're just so convenient to use. I never found myself futzing or like annoyed in any of the software. I mean, I got played around with both the settings, obviously, but I was never like, oh, this doesn't work, I wonder why. So I will say that they're like, if for someone who's looking for that type of experience, it is very nice. And also kind of offhand, but there's a little battery indicator on the charger, which is also pretty convenient, especially when compared to like AirPods, who just go like orange to green. Because I mean, I know I keep talking about those. Those are basically my only point of comparison for like in-ear headphones that are this expensive and wireless. But in comparison to them, I actually think that these do fairly well. They're definitely not as convenient, especially for people on iOS. If you're on Android, I don't have an Android phone, but I've looked at some of the reviews that AirPods have had on Android phones, and it seems like these are probably more convenient because Apple just doesn't really bother working with Android and like figuring all of that type of thing out. But for like $100 off, I think that these are definitely a good value for like if you're trying to buy AirPod Pros. As for normal AirPods, I think that like if you're on iOS, I think that these are probably worth the extra $50, especially if you're more into audio quality than like aesthetics or things like that. But it's up to you. I would recommend trying them out, but I don't even know where you could do that. So as for my opinions, I think that they sound really great. Definitely better than normal AirPods. I don't think they sound as good as AirPod Pros, but give or take, it's not like a huge difference. It's not like you're gonna be like, oh my God, I'm missing out. But other than that, just in conclusion, I think that they are really great headphones. If you're on iOS, it's a little bit of a toss-up, but if you're on Android, I think that definitely, if you're looking for something in this price range, you should definitely pick these up. They're high quality, they've been incredibly convenient to use, and I've had great experiences with all the JBL stuff that they've sent me over the years. So overall, just great experience, and I definitely think you should check it out if you're looking for headphones at this price point. But that's pretty much all I have to say for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys could like and subscribe, it always helps. But other than that, thank you.